E ngā reo, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Kia ora. Tūtaua mai I runga, tūtaua mai I raro, tūtaua mai I roto, tūtaua mai I waho. Kia tau ai te Māori tū, te Māori ora. Ki te katoa, homie, huie, tai kie. Kia ora, te whare. Lovely to have you all with us this morning. Lovely full gallery, that's excellent. Just going to kick off with a little bit of housekeeping to get us underway and safe in the space. The meeting is being recorded and will be live streamed on the Council's YouTube channel. The health and safety procedures requirements for the building are displayed in front of you, so please familiarise yourselves with those if you aren't already. We have Councillor Harpeter online today and perhaps others. So all online participants are to keep cameras turned on and microphone muted unless addressing the meeting. And presenters, when you come to speak, please make sure to give your name before speaking and to use the microphone. You know it's on when the red light is on, just for the benefit of the recording and for those of us in the room. Okay, that's the housekeeping, I think. We go to apologies for today's meeting. We're not on a break. So we have apologies from Deputy Mayor Councillor Debbie Marshall-Lobb for early departure on council business, Mayor Grant Smith for late arrival. The Deputy Mayor's council business is we have a school group joining us this morning. They will arrive into the chamber at about 10 o'clock, so there might be a little disruption as that happens. They're coming to join us for about 30 minutes, and then the Deputy Mayor will take them out for some civic education, I think. So that's her council business today. Thank you, Deputy Mayor, for doing that on our behalf. I'll move those apologies, seconded by Councillor Meehan, and seek a vote, please. That's 11 votes in favour. Are there 11 votes? Okay, we had this fun last week for those joining who weren't here last week. So are we adding Leonie, or do you want to do it again? We're going to do that again to get the right number. I might have to appoint a numbers monitor to make sure we've got the right. Maybe that'll be you, Councillor Dennison, since this is your shtick at the moment. You can be in charge of the right numbers. I'm still getting 11, but you're... She is online. Okay. I'm going to do my wedding. Speak now or forever hold your peace. We're going to look and shame people. Is your name not on the list? 11 is correct. We don't have Grant. Lou. Oh, Lou. Welcome to the seamless process that is council. Do you? We're going to run it again. We're going to keep going till we get it right. Everybody press the button. Let's just press the button. 12. Thank you very much. Woo! I feel like we're winning already this morning. Excellent. Next items on the agenda were notification of additional items, and I don't have any. Declarations of interest. Again, I've not been notified, so just giving that opportunity for anybody to mention anything here. No, good. So then we will move on to public comment. Again, we have presentations coming, but I'm not aware of any public comment. So just checking the gallery. No. Nobody feels a sudden urge. Oh.
I'll just hear on behalf of Natural 112. Just wanted to support.
Would you like to come down to the microphone Lovely. Thank you for volunteering for some public comment. That's an unusual thing. So if you'd like to pop your microphone on and do your introduction for the purpose that you're coming to speak. So public comment is 3 minutes. You are very welcome, Jean.
Kia ora koutou. I've been here a few times about natural burial, but I'd just thought I'd take this opportunity. I didn't know whether comment was possible at the beginning because I have to leave at 11:15, but very, very interested in advancing the natural burial option as part of this. And would just like to say there has been a site that a number have looked into. Members of our group have been, council staff, Mana Whenua supported it. So we are hopeful, but if for some reason that site is not deemed suitable, then very keen to see other options, because I think there are other options out there as well that could be suitable. So that's basically, we've been meeting quite regularly as a group, so we are very keen to see this advanced.
Thank you, Jean.
I don't know whether there's any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Jean on natural burial? Not today. Thank you, Jean, for coming in and for volunteering that public comment. So we will move to receive the public comment. We'll just get that recommendation up. I'll move that, seconded by the Deputy Chair, Councillor Meehan, and invite all 12 of you to vote. Twelve in favour. Thank you. So moving on to the presentations which are planned for this morning. Our first presentation is from the New Zealand Senior Women's Canoe Polo team, who I see in the gallery there. So if you'd like to come and take a seat down in the middle, we might need to find some extra chairs for you all. There are some spare chairs there. Excellent. So I will leave it to you to introduce yourselves, and then you have 10 minutes for your presentation. You are very welcome with us here today. We're excited to have you. Over to you. So just press the right-hand side button so the red light comes on.
Kia ora, I'm Kate. I'm the captain of the Paddle Ferns, and I'll let the others introduce themselves.
Kia ora, I'm Clara. I'm, number 2 Paddle Fern. Hi, my name's Alyssa. I'm number 7. And I'm Georgia, I'm number 4.
And behind us we have our manager, Janelle, who could be with us today. We've just come along to speak to you guys about our experience heading over to the Canoe Polo World Championships, which are held in China in October this year. So we've been home for just over a month. So we've got a wee PowerPoint to show you.
All right, so the build-up, so we have 2 selection trial camps, and from those, a team of 8 gets selected to go over to China for this year, 2024 World Champs. We were named on the 5th of March, and we have several training camps which are all around the country. Fortunately, we had a few in Palmerston North this year. And including in the build-up for trials, we also have National League, which we all play for the Valkyries Black team, which we won the National League A grade. And because there's limited competition, we also play in the Open B grade, which is where we basically play against all the men in New Zealand Canoe Polo, and fortunately we were able to win that as well this year, which no senior woman team has ever won, so that's been great. And then so after winning that, we felt pretty confident and departed on the 7th of October to head to China to train.
In our build-up when we played B grade, you might notice the bottom right photo there has some legends in it. There's Lisa Carrington, Amy Fisher, and the sprint kayak team before they headed off for the Olympics. So we managed to cross paths with them, which was quite cool before they headed off and had lots of success as well.
So, travel. As always, New Zealand's the furthest country away from all these international competitions, so we're pretty used to being the furthest flying and sort of stuff. So it all started about 2 or 3 weeks before Worlds. Our boats left in a big container on a flight, and so we were boatless for a couple of weeks, which is a little bit nerve-wracking as you're building up to the big Worlds and you don't have your own gear. So they left, and then we left on the 7th of October. So us 5 flew up to Auckland and met with the rest of the team, which was really special to hang out with everyone just beforehand. Took some cool photos, we exchanged socks. It was a really fun environment to be in. And yes, we made our way to Singapore, then to Shanghai, then a 3-hour bus ride to Cheng. We found a hotel and it was very, very, very nice. Traveling was really fun with the girls.
Cool. So before Worlds, we had a pre-tournament which was called Super Cup. It was the first time the ICF had raced, and it was pretty exciting because they were basically getting the top 10 ranked teams from last Worlds, and we went to this tournament. It was maybe like an hour bus ride from our hotel, so we did that in the morning and the evening for 2 days. We went there and basically played against the other 10 ranked teams. It was sort of a knockout style. It was drawn out of a hat. So first up, I think we played Singapore, and then as we went through the tournament, we made it into the top 4. Unfortunately, lost the semi and came 4th, but it was really exciting to do that before Worlds, and I think brush off the cobwebs and not having our boats and stuff, so it was pretty fun to do that. There's our Palmy Seniors players. There's some of the men there as well.
Yeah, and then actual World Champs was from the 17th to the 21st. There were 17 teams in our division, so there's obviously 4 divisions. There's the under-21 men and women and the senior men and women, and a bunch of countries there, which was quite cool. Had a bit of questionable weather some of the days, but we were quite well equipped for that training in the middle of winter here, which was good preparation for us. We managed to play really well in our first 2 rounds, and set us up quite well. We pretty much got to go through to finals guaranteed, as opposed to some teams that had a rough ride to get there. It was quite cool. We had a lot of comments from other countries and officials and stuff of how we were such a good team, and I think that definitely is testament to why we did so well. Unfortunately, the water quality there was a little bit poor. It was a freshwater lake, but quite a few people got sick at Worlds. Luckily, we managed to avoid it. We had our vice-captain unwell for the semi-final. She didn't play, but other than that, we all soldiered on through. And then obviously coming out with the win was pretty insane. So the New Zealand 2016 Paddle Ferns did that first, so it was quite cool to know that we could achieve that, and they'd kind of paved the way for us. To bring the trophy home, which is pretty impressive, as you can see. It was a massive accomplishment, and obviously what we set out to do in the first place. Here's just some photos. So Georgia's our charge starter. She's in the top left. She often contests the ball at the start of the game, which is terrifying, but she loves it. Clara, I, and Alyssa, and you'll see Janelle running along the side with all of our spare paddles and drink bottles and gear.
And then we're fortunate to have the senior men and actually all of the 21 women and 21 men perform the haka for us when we won, which is pretty special. And yeah, I think a lot of tears were shed that day. That's kind of it, yeah.
Thank you. That's amazing. Are you happy to take some questions if people have? Because I have a couple. Why were you swapping socks?
Well, it was a TikTok trend, and it's like you buy a weird pair of socks for your friend. We did a number order, so I bought it for number 5 in our team, and you don't know about it, right? And there's some socks you wear on the plane, just like a joke. And so we had some really funky socks walking around the airport, so it was a bit of a giggle, kind of calm the nerves a bit for us. So it was quite fun.
Cool. I saw your picture there with the Palmy seniors, so men and women. So Palmy is obviously really well represented in senior canoe polo for New Zealand. Why do we do so well?
I think we have a bunch of really, really awesome volunteers here. Obviously, it's a fully self-funded sport, and so everybody is like doing it because they love it. And we have some great volunteers at the grassroots level, bringing it in the schools. So intermediate canoe polo and high school canoe polo here is really strong, and I think that really flows on into like the national club scene, and then obviously onto New Zealand's. So yeah, I think we have great programs for young kids. Even for adults, we have some adults programs. If you guys want to get in, flick us a message, happily bring you along to us. But yeah, cool programs initiated.
Would you like to come on Sunday night?
Freiburg pool.
Yeah,
Yeah, we wouldn't make you train in the lagoon. We'll let you in the Freiburg pool for that one. It'll be really fun.
Does sound more attractive. Councillor Not.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, ladies. Fantastic result. Certainly punching above our weight, Palmerston North, in this sport. Milson Rotary, that I'm a member of, gave some money to Caleb Khan. And how many Palmerston and Kiwis were there over there actually playing?
Yeah, so we're really good in the senior area, but there was about, I think, 17 total. So there was 7 on the 21 men's team was from Palmy, which was really cool. We had 3 21 girls, 4 of us, and 3 senior men. Yeah, so quick maths maybe. I think it was about 17. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, incredible. Like we only had, I think, 4 from Hawke's Bay, 5. Yeah, so we were the most by far.
Yeah.
So really impressive, yeah.
Well, she's coming to give us a talk on Monday night. Do you give much of a chance to mentor the younger generation coming up?
Yeah, it's really, like, the community's really tight-knit, so
Yeah.
we're able to help a bunch of people. Like, even at the women's B grade, women's A grade trainings, we have trials right now for our season, and we're able to go there and sort of help the coaches and help the new girls coming up. And then I know a bunch of us have helped at intermediate grade as well. Like, my mum used to run intermediate grade for years. Like, we're just all around and about, and like Kate coaches at Palmy Girls High, and I coach at St. Peter's. So we're able to get in where we can, and it's really fun.
Oh, fantastic. Congratulations again, Madam Chair.
Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hey, really impressive effort, and I just want to ask, how much competition did you have, or how much training together as a team prior to going to the Worlds? You told us about your trip and the games there, but how much prior to, over the last 12 months, have you been together as a team?
Yeah, so obviously we get selected, we start training camps at the end of the year for the previous year, so over Christmas, and then we get selected start of January, and given we're from all over New Zealand, I guess the majority of us are from Palmerston North, fortunately, so we don't really train as much as a team. We get about 4 training camps, and so that's why we kind of enter the open grade as well, to get at least 3 competitions. So each national league is 3 competitions throughout New Zealand. So that's about 3 competitions, 4 training camps, and the rest we kind of just train in our own little groups wherever we live. So we're fortunate, and we train most mornings in the winter, and we do about 2 trainings a day most weeks. And we have kind of a evening polo competition where we get to play against the senior men from Palmerston North as well, which has been really fortunate for us.
Excellent. And I was going to ask if you trained at all in the lagoon, but as you said, you don't really. I would suggest that's probably the reason you didn't get sick at all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Harpeter online. Councillor Harpeter, you have a question? I can't hear you at the moment. You want to try again? No. Can we get Councillor Harpeter's? It's at your end, we think, Councillor Harpeter. Can you just check you're unmuted? Shall I just let you have a play with that? We'll go to Councillor Fitzgerald while we sort that out.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And a question for the Chair and perhaps governance, Madam Chair. Is there anything in the standing orders that will prevent the Chamber from standing to applaud their achievement this morning?
There is nothing at all that will stop us from doing that at the end, Councillor Fitzgerald. Great minds think alike. We'll try again for Councillor Harpeter. Have we fixed you? Sarah? We're going to keep trying with that. Councillor Barrett has a question. I rather think that might have been triggered by a previous comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for coming and sharing your experience. If there's one thing that you could improve about the canoe polo experience in the Manawatu, what would it be?
Yeah, obviously we've been able to train in the lagoon, which is awesome, but there's some difficulties with training there. I suppose it's obviously a residential area, so we're on the water, we're quite loud, and you can't really help that playing canoe polo. So I think sometimes some of the neighbours might find that really frustrating, especially when we obviously all self-fund the sport, so we all have a life outside of polo as well. Most of the middle of our day is taken up, so as Clara said, we train in the morning, like 6 a.m. we're on the water, building up for Worlds, and then again go to work, go to uni throughout the daytime, and then in the evening back on the water till 5:30, probably 7 p.m. So yeah, I guess end goal massive. I guess yeah, end goal would be to have like somewhere where we can play canoe polo that doesn't impact other people, and I think that would have massive benefits again for Manawatu, strengthen our canoe community here, and probably help more of our Manawatu crew get into the world stage. But yeah, big picture things, but that would be, I think, the ideal.
Yeah, sorry, the lagoon it's like we're saying, it's in a residential area, which is a bit hard for the neighbours, but also it's really good in the way that it publicises our sport a lot. We have Arahua Cup in February, which is the biggest like summer tournament of the year, and we have so many people just walk past and like, oh, canoe polo, it's interesting, and like it grows our sport just from that. So we would love a new facility, but also in a way that the public can still see us and still expand our sport in that way.
Great. Thank you both, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We're going to try again for Councillor Harpter. She's going to mime her question. No, she's not. Do you want to... Has she put anything in the chat? No. Okay. Sorry, Councillor Harpter, we are having a problem getting to you. Councillor Harpter had a question. I'm sure it was excellent. Oh. What about it? Oh. Councillor Harpter wants to ask about funding. How are you funded? Are there any issues with funding that we should know?
We did a lot of work fundraising. We did a quiz night and put a lot of work into that. That was cool. And then we've also done lots of work individually with like sponsorship and scholarships and all that. But it does get quite hard not having a lot of funding. We spend a lot of our time training and then working as well, and then putting on these fundraisers. It is a lot of work. But you know that everyone loves it because they're all there and they're all paying that money to be there, so that's cool too, but it has been challenging in that regard.
Yeah, and I guess the other tricky thing is it's easier to kind of get team sponsorship, but when the team is spread out across the country, that makes it a little difficult. And also being like a volunteer organisation, like there's one person at New Zealand Canoe Polo that gets paid, and it's just 12 hours a week. He's the president. Everybody else is there again doing it because they love the sport and want to help us succeed. So yeah, it's it's tricky because again you'd need somebody from New Zealand Canoe Polo to be like fully doing the role of funding officer full time, and again they have jobs and stuff as well. So yeah, it's tricky, but yeah, as Liz says, we do it because we love it, and obviously we do really well. We keep doing it.
Thank you. A question from the Mayor. Well,
Kia ora. Thank you, Madam Chair. Congratulations. Really amazing. I saw it on Facebook, and it's great that you're in here and celebrating. And what an awesome trophy too. It's fantastic. 2028, I understand, is World Championship opportunities, and Oceania or New Zealand and possibly even Palmerston North has the opportunity to host it. Do you know much about that?
The next World Champs is in 2026 and it's in Germany, so that's really exciting. I think it's hard to guarantee that we'll all be there because it's hard to get time off work and pay for it, so we're just taking it year by year, I think. And the next thing we're looking at is World Games next year. That is in August, and it's in China again, so we're all working towards that. As for hosting, I don't know much about what's in the works for that. I think there'd need to be a lot of work done to find a place to do it, and it would be a lot of work for us. I'm not sure if you guys know much more about the Whisperings.
As much as I know is that we you need 4 courts and you need 4 other warm-up courts. So in terms of like hosting in Palmerston North, probably need to expand the area a lot with another 4 courts at least for warm-up.
So you've got to have 8.
Yeah, I think at least just 4 competition ones and then 4 just to warm up. But there's ways around it, I think. But I think if it was in Palmerston North, that'd be pretty amazing.
Right. Let's sow the seed. Thank you.
I think the other thing we have, so as Liz said, we have Worlds every 2 years. So we've just been in the next one's in 2026. But in those alternate years, we have Oceania, just in Australia. Obviously, Palmerston has hosted Oceania. That was 2017. Most recently, it's been held up in Bay at the facility. Definitely be a potential for Oceania to be held here again in Palme because it was really successful last time.
Thank you all. That's the end of the questions. Thank you for giving up your time this morning to come in and tell us about your big adventure and how wonderfully successful that was for all of you. So if you want to take a seat back in the gallery, I'm going to move that the Culture and Sport Committee receive the presentation for information, seconded by Councillor Meehan. I will open that up for any comment, and then we'll vote on it, and then I think we will, as suggested by Councillor Fitzgerald, rise to celebrate this wonderful achievement. So any comments from anyone on the presentation? The Deputy Mayor.
Kia ora, Madam Chair. Just to reiterate the congratulations from everyone else. What a fantastic achievement and a wonderful presentation as well. Really, we're all very proud of you. So thank you, each and every one of you, including the team manager. Been there before, not to that level, mind you, but I know that behind the scenes there's a great deal of work going on. But to all of you, well done. Kia ora.
Thank you, Fire Deb. Yes, absolutely. Thanks for coming in to tell us about it. It's, I think many of us were aware of what was going on because the socials are quite extensive on the subject, but it's great to celebrate Palme's success on that national and international stage. Really impressive to see how many local people have made men's and women's senior team. The great throughput from our junior and intermediate grades into really successful senior teams. And thank you for coming to tell us about that. So I will invite some votes. We're now at 13, is the magic number. Yes, well done everybody. Congratulations to you all. Celebrate with our team. The Mayor's giving out prizes. Excellent. Thank you for coming in this morning. Thank you, everyone. Right, moving to our next presentation, which is Stuff Events for Central District Field Days. Kia ora.
Kia ora, morena everyone. Always a bit of a hospital pass trying to present second after a World Championship team. I just
we feel your pain.
Also want to extend my congratulations, ladies. Well done.
Thank you.
To everyone, I am the Partnerships and Events Director at Stuff. Some of you I've met along my journey coming back and forward to the region for the last 8 years, and I have been in this position, as I said, for the last 8 years. I started off my tenure at Stuff Events as the event manager for Central District Field Days, and that's ultimately what I'm here to talk to you guys about today. Take that one. Remembering stuff. So I'm sure all of you are aware of Stuff, but I just wanted to give you take you on a bit of a journey today to get to the presentation at the end of it, which is just around how ingrained stuff is in the New Zealand community. Obviously, first and foremost, we're the only one of the largest independently owned media organisation in New Zealand, and we engage with 3.4 million Kiwis on a monthly basis. More to the point that, you know, one of the key things that's happening in the media space and the landscape is around the rise of social media and the giants, and we're 2.2 times more trusted than those. We're also the number one print and digital platform with inside New Zealand news space, and we engage with 1.4 million techies on an annual month. We also engage with 2 million people that love to try new food, and we've reached 370,000 rural decision makers on an annual basis. And one of probably the major things that people aren't aware of with Stuff is that we have been in the event space for a very, very long time. So hence I lead into Stuff Events, which is the part of the business inside the Stuff ecosystem that I lead up. Stuff has been in the events game for over 52 years through the different iterations of the business. On an average year, we deliver 12 events, and we engage with over 100,000 people on an annual basis. For us, we're all about engaging with the communities, creating unforgettable experiences, driving economic impact, and prioritising innovation and sustainability. The three major events that we have inside our portfolio, on the bottom left, we've got Southern Cross Round the Bays, which is the largest fun run event in New Zealand, which is now in Auckland, Wellington and Christchurch. Obviously, we own and manage Central District Field Days, and we also have New Zealand House and Garden Tours, which 2 years ago we brought to the Palmerston North region. Last year we were in Wanganui, and this year or next year we're going to be in the Wairarapa. So I'm sure you're all aware of Central District Field Days, but obviously it's been driving economic impact into the region for over the last 32 years. And it's dramatically grown from a collection of marquees to now an economic powerhouse serving the primary industries. And we're really trying to reach new industries, particularly in the space of tech, food innovation and service industries. The thing that we've been working on really, really hard is obviously 52% of the people that attend this event now come from outside of the region, and last year it drove $42 million worth of sales revenue across the 3 days and delivered an additional 2,400 nights as well. To this, there's obviously 4 field days across the country. One of the things that we really prioritise ourselves is supporting local businesses. Obviously, the core element of the return or economic impact sits inside the Palmerston North City region due to you guys having the most amount of infrastructure compared to your neighbours just down the road in Fielding. So one of the strongest pieces of feedback that we get from our exhibitors is that we're continuing to bring the right people in through the gates. We're supporting their messages, and that we're getting leads and generation from that compared to some of our competitors. And that's one of the main priorities. If we're not bringing the right people in the gates, they are not getting an economic return. We don't have an event. So for us, we've been working really, really hard with CEDA and Luke from the Major Events Fund, and I've had several conversations with Grant over the years around how we can support the region's food strategy. And so we think there's a really great opportunity this year to highlight the region's unique strengths and depth of innovation in the agri-food space, and spearhead an annual calendar of the Year of Agri-Food. How do we want to do this? Well, we want to develop an agri-food zone at City Field Days in collaboration with CEDA and the Palmerston North City Council to drive this and create this an annual event. The space would be looked to be filled with exhibitors and local business and tech startups over the first 2 days of the event, and that would be obviously part of that would be to help develop and kind of spread their word free of charge. In terms of a content piece, we will create that space for thought leadership sessions, speaker panels, local experts and visiting dignitaries to come see, touch and engage the ecosystem inside that innovation zone. And from our point of view, you know, the knowledge sharing and the influence has never been more important in the kind of buying journey, and that allows that to happen in this event space. In terms of amplification, how can we really drive content in this event forward? Obviously, leveraging Stuff's unparalleled ecosystem of marketing channels will help drive the city's stories around its unique strength to a much wider audience than it potentially has in the past. And that's one of the most important things from an event perspective. It's quite unique having an events business inside New Zealand's largest media channel, but having that ability to be able to utilise those marketing channels allows us to engage and get in front of as many Kiwis as possible, but it also allows us to take our partners on that journey as well. So from a partnership approach, we would really like to showcase the role that the city plays in growing and producing food brands to align with the city's goal to be the food capital or innovation capital of New Zealand. Position itself through the food zone and the content calendar that will surround this. It will position it as firmly the national hub for agri-tech and food innovation within New Zealand. And then there's the opportunity there to kind of bridge the city to academic divide by bringing unique agri stories and innovators to the forefront of consumer minds throughout not only the CDF marketing channels, but also the Stuff marketing channels right across our print and digital platform, which we kind of highlighted above as kind of unparalleled in New Zealand, and then also utilising New Zealand farmer assets as well. So in terms of an investment point of view, we've already got $30,000 committed from the Major Events Fund. So for us to create the space, City Field Days for 2 days, and create a collaboration content calendar and share the stories that want to come from the region and what the region wants to be told to the wider New Zealand, we're looking for an additional 30 grand to make this space. That's kind of the nuts and bolts of my presentation. I'd love to open the floor to any questions.
Thank you for that. There are lots of questions coming in, but I'm mindful that they're probably also related to the officer's report that will follow. So I'm going to ask Luke to come up and present his report now as well, and then we can open for questions on both of those, and you can decide between you who is best to answer it.
Thank you. Kia ora koutou, Luke McIndoe, Manager, Venues and Event Partnerships. Henry's request was received via the Major Event Fund for a multi-year agreement of $60,000 per annum based on the presentation Henry's just given. And that's for 3 years. The support and funding policy from 2002 provides the option for applicants to bring requests to the Chamber that exceed the criteria of the fund for a decision by elected members. So as Henry said, Stuff have been provisionally approved for a 3-year contract of $30,000 per year, awaiting the outcome of today's committee meeting. A range of options have been identified as a way forward, and it's they're outlined on page 13 of your papers. Over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Luke. Appreciate that jog through. There are questions, so elect members' questions on either the presentation or the officer's report. Councillor Fitzgerald, you can kick us off.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks, Luke. Thanks, Henry, and thanks, Jonathan, online as well. So the 2-day event is going to create an agri-food zone. What will the extra $30,000 per year provide for that zone?
It's a combination. So obviously there's a lot of infrastructure that we will need to build the space. So the marquee structure potentially itself, and the infrastructure that builds it. It'll obviously cover the emission fees to all the businesses that or startups that we decide to put into that, and there'll be a wrap of a content plan that will be around that. So in terms of the lead up, we would like to obviously promote that through the lead up campaign across our preview and program, which were 2 dedicated publications. We would also like to work with local council to understand what stories and what businesses they want to put in there, and we would like to promote that as well across NZ Farmer and Stuff's channels through a sponsored content series as well. So depending on where the investment lies, we would look to maximise those stories in the lead up to the event, obviously create the space itself at the event for that to happen, and then obviously try and capture content at the event, which would then dovetail into a post-event series of articles as well.
Wonderful. Second question, the exhibitors that you mentioned in the presentation, is the expectation that they will not be charged an exhibition fee to be in the zone?
Correct.
Have you thought about charging them an exhibition fee to be in the zone, or are you expecting that the council will fund them to be in the zone?
We're looking for this investment, certainly in year 1, to cover that. A lot of the businesses in this space generally don't have the financial backing to be to have that up front, and we're certainly trying to help them grow as a business and drive awareness of the food innovation tech that's coming from this region and New Zealand. And longer down the track, if this is successful, then we can look at that. If the likes of someone from potentially that Gallagher, that obviously is is in the tech space and does have money, definitely we would look to, if they wanted it, they've got an existing site, but if they also wanted to be in the innovation zone, that would be a different conversation to have. So this is more targeted at startups and people that are starting off their innovation journey.
Sure. Last question, Madam Chair. Have you thought about sponsorship via partnership, so it doesn't all land on the council? We could probably connect in with the other councils in the region who also benefit from the.
Yes, it's definitely on the table. One of the 3 revenue streams that you have from an event is, as you said, commercial partnerships. The other one is exhibitor feed, and the other is people coming through the gates. So yes, we are looking at all options, but this is something that we've wanting to work closer with the region to try and, obviously it's the largest event in the Lower North Island. The event brings a huge amount of economic impact into the region, and we wanted to understand what are the priorities in the food and fibre and tech space, and utilise CD Field Days and stuff as a vehicle to engage with a wider audience. So that's ultimately where we are at the moment in the process.
Thanks, Henry. Thanks, Luke.
Thanks.
The Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Henry. Good to see you again. A couple of questions. First to you, Luke. Is in your paper, that's years 25, 26 and 27. Is that right?
It's from this year. There's a request. So we're currently in this financial year. The request is from this financial year.
Yeah.
But yeah, the event delivery dates, yes,
Isn't
25, 26.
26 and 27 delivery. Okay, cool. Just following on from my colleague's questions, Henry, is there a naming sponsor?
At this stage, no.
So, I'm going to put you on the spot here. So what value, if Palmerston North City Council was to look at this, could Palmy be as the naming sponsor?
Yes. Ultimately, that's probably where we would see it playing anyway.
Right.
Sorry if that wasn't clear enough.
Yeah, no, that's good. And just also the differentiation from the National Field Days, and there's obviously been some changes up there with Peter Nation and everything leaving, but is there, what do you see being the differentiation for Central District's Field Days, different to, say, the Canterbury Agri Show, the National Field Days?
It's a really good question. One that JP who's online, we talk a lot about. I think one of the key differences that we have is that we've got a much smaller team and we have a much more flexible approach. If a business comes to us and says that they want to shift a boundary, change a boundary, we're totally flexible, rather than potentially our partners up the road. They're saying this is the size, this is what you've got to fit into it. We're really passionate about bringing the right people through the gates, and I see that in my presentation, rather than potentially, some people may say tire kickers, because we are still really feel that we're much more of a trade event where we're actually driving economic impact, not only for the region we're in, but the businesses that we're serving. So I think we've got a much more local approach. We're never going to get to 130,000, but we still think there's room to bring more people to the region. So, we started at, 22,000 in my time. We're up over 30,000 visitors coming to the event. We want to shoot over, 500 to 550 exhibitors. We've got space to be able to grow. So I think the main point that we're focused on is bringing the right people through the gates and driving economic impact for the businesses that we serve, because if we don't have that, we don't have an event.
Okay. And just on the zone space, what do you see there? Speakers, innovators, obviously startups, but also companies, a little bit like what Councillor Fitzgerald was talking about.
Yeah, I think in year one, we've got to be really flexible and dynamic. First and foremost, we've got to make sure that we fill that space. And, I've been working with Greg and Janet from CEDA, and obviously a lot of conversations with Luke as well, that there's more than enough businesses that, are wanting this opportunity to get in front of people and an audience in a captured space, with the ability to be able to leverage that to a wider audience. So, I think a combination is the right approach. And ultimately, this is something I think from an events perspective, we're always looking to add to City Field Days, because if we keep on providing, the same experience every year, why do people want to keep on coming back? And so that's important for us to continue to innovate. And one of the strengths of this region is food and fibre, and it's something that we haven't had at City Field Days for the 32 years it's been running.
Okay. And just finally, on your reach, your channels, your network, and I think that's where I'm I think you can deliver on the field days. I've been there, I've seen it in person. But the promotional stuff that you can do for the city and our partners, our innovators, our companies, is it possible that stuff can profile, case study some of our science, our innovators, some of our companies? I know we're sort of getting into a bit of commercial space, but if we're paying, we're sort of going to have to ask for that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I've been working on this event and trying to build a relationship with yourself, Grant, and other mayors within the region, because we really do value a partnership approach. We want to work with local stakeholders as much as we can and humanly possible. So, whilst I can never put in a contract that we can agree to editorial value, because they have they have their code, but there's certainly ways where we can work from an advertorial space, a sponsored content place. Obviously, we know there's over 3,000 scientists inside this region, and there's some great stories to tell. And as you can see from our audience, there's 1.4 million people that are interested in tech, that visit stuff on a monthly basis. There's over 2 million people that are interested in food and trying new food. And, a lot of that innovation is happening inside this region.
Good. Well, you're next scientists too. Thank you.
Thank you. To follow up on that funding question of working with other mayors in partnership, who else is funding Central District Field Days?
No one at this stage.
Okay. So why are we not already the naming rights sponsor?
Pardon?
If we're putting in $30,000 and nobody else is putting in anything, why are we not already the naming rights sponsor?
In terms of City Field Days, the event, or the agri space?
The event.
Because that is valued at a lot higher than $30,000. But you have been a commercial partner for the last couple of years based on the funding that we've agreed.
Okay, thanks. And are you having these conversations with other councils to try and increase funding?
Yes, we are, but we're also having conversations with a lot of other commercial partners as well.
Okay, that's great. There are more questions. Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Luke. Thank you, Henry. I saw on one of your slides you said the total cost is $60,000. Do you mean the total cost that you're asking of the city and you'll be going to others asking for more money, or is the total cost of the entire event $60,000?
In terms of creating the agri-zone space, we've pitched it at $60,000 at this point in time.
So if we were to fund that, why would any other council or any other commercial partner provide any funding toward it?
They won't necessarily be providing funding to the agricultural zone. They could be providing space to the event itself.
No, I appreciate that, but hold on. So I'm trying to understand your answers to previous questions. So you said Stuff, CEDA and the PNCC would be your partners. The event's held in the Manawatu District Council. Are you not engaging with them on this opportunity?
With inside the Manawatu?
With Manawatu District Council?
We haven't got to that point with them at this moment.
Okay. In answer to your question to Councillor Fitzgerald, when he said what would the additional 30,000 do, I thought I heard you say you'd use it to effectively fund more promotion of the event through Stuff's own channels. So are you implying that we would be funding Stuff to promote a Stuff event on your own channels? Is that what the 30,000 would be used for?
The $30,000 would be used to promote the content of the space and the stories and the businesses that would be in the space itself.
But so you keep saying the word partnership, implying that, you know, we'd all be putting something in, but if what we're putting in is being used to pay for Stuff's advertising, what is Stuff's contribution to the partnership?
Stuff's contribution is obviously the advertising. There's a value on that. The advertising is not free. We need to pay for that, and obviously it's the content in and around that as well.
Apologies, I have to ask that again, Madam Chair, if that's all right.
We just maybe hold while we get all of the children in and seated, because I appreciate that it's hard to maintain focus while we've got this much movement going on. Thank you, Councillor Wood. Welcome, Longburn Adventist. Right. Are we all in? Got-o. For the benefit of everybody who's just joined us, I don't know if you've got the papers for this meeting. We're in the middle of talking about receiving a presentation about Central District Field Days, which I'm sure lots of you have been to, and talking about how Council might fund and support that in our budgets for the next 3 years. So we have a presentation with us, officers presenting their report, and now elected members are asking questions about that to help us then move into debate and decide what we'll do about that funding request. So I will pass back to you, Councillor Wood, to continue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I was just asking around this. So you just said in your answer Stuff's contribution is the advertising, but you've also said that we'll be the ones paying for the advertising. So I'm trying to understand, if we're paying for it, then what are you bringing to the partnership? Are you giving discounted rates for the advertising, or are you running 50% free and we pay 50%, or are we just paying for all of it? In which case, how is that a partnership?
So the investment from Stuff from an event perspective is about $2.5 million until promote the advertising campaign for the whole of Stuff. If we obtain some further investment from Palmerston North City Council, it would allow us to create the zone itself from a physical perspective, but it will also allow us to create a content series to talk about what's happening in the space in pre, during and post, and that is in collaboration with yourselves on what you want to push forward, what businesses you want to push forward, and then we can amplify that across Stuff's reach.
Right, thank you. And my last question is this additional event anticipated to be profitable for Stuff?
In terms of the agri-zone space?
Yes.
No, it's not anticipated to be profitable. The event itself, we are a commercial entity, but the space is to create new content and engage with a new audience.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Barrett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Henry, and thanks, Luke. I think most questions probably land with you, Henry, at this stage. Firstly, just trying to get my head around what the zone is. I've heard you use the word agri-food, I've heard you use the word agri-tech, I've heard you use the word agri-zone. What's the actual scope of it? What's in and what's out?
Once again, we haven't probably nailed that down. We want to work with CEDA to understand what businesses they want to put forward into that space. We would ideally look at 10, 15, 20 businesses, depending on people, the interest in that, to try and create that space within there.
So it's the only thing I've heard then in terms of scope is that it's businesses rather than other entities.
Sorry, what's the difference in your view about businesses and other entities?
There's some research providers here that would not classify themselves as businesses.
Sure. Yes. So then, yeah, we're totally open to whether that's an entity then, or a business or a startup.
Thank you. How many of those are expected to be new exhibitors, or is it more putting a spotlight on the existing exhibitors and kind of crowding them together in one space?
Ideally, our hope is that it would be majority new businesses, because obviously this is designed to try and work with, as you said, research entities or startups in that innovation space. So ideally they would be all new businesses. But if there, as I said, if there was an example like the likes of another tech company around Gala or Livno from that wanted to be inside that space, then that could be a part of the conversation as well.
But like Gallagher being an example of a business that's already there.
Yes, they are.
Livno?
Yes, they are there.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. How many years have been going in Fielding?
The event? 32.
And if I heard correctly, no relationship with the Manawatu district?
No, we do have a relationship with them. They supported it over in the past. But this is an opportunity to the region, because a lot of the economic impact sits within this region because of the infrastructure that you hold in the space.
So, but currently no financial contribution from MDC?
Not for 2025 at this stage.
Great. When was the most recent contribution from MDC?
2 years ago.
Right. Okay. Thanks for that. Probably finally, Madam Chair, just perhaps a bit more of a philosophical question. But you talked about in some of your intro about bridging the city-rural divide. Do you see that as a real thing?
It depends on probably where you sit. There's often always a divide between town and country. It was definitely part of the conversation that we've developed with engaging with local stakeholders in terms of CEDA. They thought this was an opportunity that where people could touch, taste, and feel some of the options that that could be an option that could come out of the back of this innovation zone.
So if it was put to you that it's, at least in a Palmerston North context, potentially leveraging the city-rural connection, what would be your response to that?
Well, I think CDA Field Days is an event for everyone. We have people that come from Wellington, Taranaki, and this region as well. I think ultimately this is an event for everyone, and hopefully City Field Days allows us people to get information and ideas, learn from what's the latest tech or gadgets, or what's shifting the economy forward.
Great. I guess one follow-up, sorry, Madam Chair, to extend, but just kind of thinking about, you said you were hoping to get a list of new businesses in. I guess worst case scenario, if this was deferred a year, would you be in a position in a year's time to actually come in, present, and have a list of businesses that would be in this zone rather than having it as a more of a hypothetical at this stage?
Yeah, absolutely. But we've had several conversations with local stakeholders that have said that they feel like there's a number of businesses that would be interested in it. So we decided that it was worth having a crack this year. But certainly, if we had to turn around and confirm X amount of businesses were in the space, that's obviously an option as well.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Hancock.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks, Henry and Luke. Just a couple of questions. Henry, just for you, I just really want to get a better understanding in terms of this is a new venture in terms of the field days. Do you currently actually have like a formal timeline and plan in terms of producing funding to actually support this particular venture at the moment?
This is the first step of that.
So what are your next steps in terms of increasing that funding stream?
Depending on the outcome of this meeting today, we've got some meetings booked in with Luke and the Major Events Fund and also CEDA to then work through who is the shortlist to go and approach to fill that space, who is the speakers that potentially would want to be in that, and then we would develop that from there.
Okay, thank you. And Luke, just a question for you really, is just around sort of what's the current call on our major events fund? Can you give us some understanding of the extent to which we get applications for that, the number of events, the number of organisations that are actually trying to actually compete for that funding?
I haven't got exact numbers for you in front of me, but I can tell you that we could have easily double allocated what we have each year. It's a very popular fund, and it's quite a hard job for officers to assess against the criteria of the fund. At this stage, we have enough remaining in there in this year to address the options that have been presented, but it would fully allocate the fund if we went with option 2, which is to use the existing fund at a higher level.
Right. So if we actually decline the request, the $30,000 is available for this year. But what about the out years 2 and 3?
So if the 60,000 was declined and we kept it at 30,000, that has already been allocated and that is available.
But for the 3 years?
For the 3 years.
Thank you. Can you give us perhaps just a little bit more information, just in terms of either option 2 or option 4? What are the risks to the general sort of environment, I guess, for funding for major events and the City Council's involvement with that?
So the risk of both options is that no more events can be funded for this year. So if any further projects come through in the next 6 months or so, there'll be no funding available, and it also reduces funding available from year 2. So if we use 30,000 as most events are funded at 30,000, so that would mean one less project could be funded.
Great, thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Sabellin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excuse me. Good morning. I was just thinking back to October 2022 when Ag Research and the Food HQ held the Big Food Day Out, which was very similar to the offering that you described with local exhibitors, startups and tech innovations. Is this sort of were you aware of that event? Is this sort of a build on and a development of that idea, or is this kind of maybe reinventing a wheel that's already happening here in the city? I just wondered if you had a view on that.
Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, I was aware of it. I mean, one of the key people that we've engaged with in the past is the Food HQ. Ultimately, City Field Days has a captured audience of about 30,000 people that come to it. So utilising that audience is a really great opportunity to engage with the people that are coming through the gates, and also to hopefully attract new people into the gates and spread the word of the potential people that would be interested, and the stories, the businesses or entities that could come out of the agri-food zone.
Excellent. So potentially a much greater reach than perhaps was able to be achieved by that first event.
That would certainly be the desired result.
Great, thank you. And Luke, I'm sorry just to carry on with Councillor Hancock's questioning, but I just wanted to confirm there were 10 items in the last financial year, or events, that were allocated funding under the Major Events Fund, and Central Districts was one of them, and that excludes the rural games. So that was 10 events. And so if in the next financial year we'd be looking to potentially double the allocation of one of those events, and that would have flow-on effects to the 9 remaining events that were successful this year. If we're projecting that onto next year, it just essentially means there's one or more less events that could receive funding.
It wouldn't affect anything that are under current multi-year agreements, but it would impact any new projects, whether that be the amount of funding that we could allocate to them, or whether we can fund, whether we could provide funding at all.
Thank you. That's helpful. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thanks, Madam Chair, for letting me jump back in here. So just sorry to harp on this, but given I actually like the idea myself personally, I do believe it belongs to a certain sector in our wider community, that being the agri sector. So I'm not sure, I'd just like to know, have you alongside CEDA considered or made the approach to the agri sector to run or be part of this event, to be supported by sponsors?
We haven't at this stage, but totally open to doing that. Obviously, outside of this, there are a number of commercial conversations going on different elements of different parts of Central District Field Days. But at this point in time, we thought that this was the best opportunity to try and work to create the space.
For sure. And just before my last question, Madam Chair, because you'll be well aware of the two major agri-food events that happened in Palmerston North. One was this month and one was back in June with BOMA. The next question, therefore, and I don't see it as an option, Luke, in your paper, the current major event funding of $30,000, is it an option just to take that money, whatever you're spending it on now, pull it out and drop it into the agri-zone?
There's no specific criteria. The funding is provided to support operational costs of an event, so that's entirely with Stuff Events on how they utilise funding.
Is that an option, perhaps, Henry?
Yes, it is an option, but ultimately, for us to successfully create a space, it would be in excess of $30,000.
Sure. Cool. Thank you. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you. That has exhausted the list of questions, I think. Last chance. Okay. Thank you both for presenting. Thanks, Henry, for coming in to visit with us this morning.
Thank you for the opportunity.
No problem at all. Thank you, Luke, for your report. So to get us underway, I'm going to move the recommendation to receive the presentation for information, seconded by Councillor Meehan. We'll vote on that to get that off the table, and then we'll move to the question of options. So I will invite you to vote on that recommendation that's in front of us. (13 votes in favour. Thank you. Then the recommendations from the officers' report. There are 4 options in the paper: that we either decline the request and maintain existing contestable funding from the Major Events Fund, or approve the $60,000 allocation from the Major Events Fund, or refer a new programme of up to $60,000 per year to support Central District Field Days to the annual budget 24-25 deliberations, or reduce the Major Events Fund by $60,000 to create a new programme to support Central District Field Days as per their request for $60,000 per annum. Those are the 4 options in the officer's report.
We just corrected option 3, so it's not the deliberation process, it'll be the
Right. Option 3 has been amended to take out the word deliberation. And from discussion, there may well be other options that people want to explore. It's my intention to move option 1 as status quo, and I would seek a seconder for that. Seconded by the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Marshall-Lobb. This really is to get the debate underway. I recognise that there might be other views around the table, and you are absolutely within your rights to move, to signal an indication that if this fails, there'd be a preference for another vote, but we'll take that through the debate. So to open the debate here and explain my thinking on moving the option 1 is that $30,000 is the most that can be funded for the major events out of the Major Events Fund, and it is a significant amount of funding for the city to put towards an event which is commercially successful, as well as having significant economic impact for the region. And I do recognise the very good point made by Henry in his presentation that the economic impact of CD Field Days does land heavily into Palmerston North. We do receive a lot of benefit from that event being in our close neighbour Fielding, because we have the infrastructure for it. So absolutely recognise that. But to my mind, the $30,000 allocation that we currently make does our bit in that to support attracting that economic impact here. And I don't see a compelling case for the new event as proposed. I'm interested in some of the conversations that the Mayor and Councillor Barrett were suggesting about, maybe with more specificity about what's in that and who might be part of it, and to see that it's actually additional new content. I think there's potential there, but not yet, not for me, would be where I'm sitting at the moment. But very interested to hear your debate on this subject, councillors. So I will open that for your comments and go straight to the Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and look, thanks for getting the conversation started. I could see it was going all over the place. And just a couple of comments. Outside Speedway, this is our biggest event in the city. It supports one of our two strategic catalytic projects around food innovation and with all due respects, it's much larger than the Food HQ event where a few hundred people turned up and a few of us went up there, and I understand Councillor Isabella was there, but we were speaking to the converted there. This takes the conversation around food innovation a lot wider. I won't support this recommendation, and I can understand why it's been put up, because perhaps the case hasn't. Perhaps there, in some eyes, there's perhaps a little bit of a case where there's where are we getting the value? So that's why I teased out the naming rights. That's why I teased out the value in the channels, and again, to, perhaps answer Councillor Wood's questions around advertising marketing, an area I've had 30 odd years experience in. Stuff are a business, and they run a whole lot of channels which have a whole lot of cost. Now, some of us might see it as free in some cases, or they can just line up and fill a whole lot of dead space, but actually it does cost. And we've just seen the opposition cut 14 community papers out of New Zealand, and 4 in our region. So I think we have to be a little bit careful on trying to take. So if this fails, I would like to put another recommendation on the table that we allocate $30,000 from the existing major events fund, and I can appreciate that a lot of you are probably saying we're cannibalising the fund, we won't be able to do other things, but we put another unbudgeted $30,000 to total $60,000 for the Central District's Field Days Agri-Food Innovation Zone for 25, 26, 27 years. We invite staff to come back to our first council meeting of 2025 and give us a fuller and more descript on what that innovation zone will look like, including potential companies, innovators, scientists in that space. I go to the National Field Days, and this is different. There is a point of difference. I wouldn't say there's tyre kickers up there, but there's a lot of numbers that turn up to see if they can buy a Swan Dry or a pair of gumboots and maybe something else. Whereas this event does attract real farmers, real people that are connected to the sector. Again, I think food innovation is where we've got to go. I've just come back from China, and honestly, that is where we're going as a country. If we don't export, if we don't innovate more with our food, more sustainability, do things differently, it's a slippery slope, and we'll just be selling things to ourselves. So ask you to vote this down, have a look with open eyes on what we can do with possibly, and I'm open to perhaps some manipulation of some numbers as well. But also our major events fund policy is really low. I didn't vote for it, along with a number of others around the table. It's the lowest city policy in New Zealand around a major events fund. So we hamstring the officers somewhat in looking at things. But look, I'm pleased that we are partnering it in some way. This possibly will put some heat on some of our partners as well to do something, and I think that's not a bad thing as well. So, ask you to vote this down. It is one of our major projects. It is our second largest event, and I think it deserves to be supported. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wasn't clear. Is it one of the other recommendations that you're moving, or you're writing something? You're going to make your own recommendation? Thank you. Councillor Barrett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Firstly, to say thanks to Stuff Events for bringing us this proposal. I found it very interesting and a mix of compelling but not quite there yet. So absolutely, innovation zones work very, very well, whether you call them agri-tech, whether you call them agri-food. They are a good thing. I've seen them in action in Mystery Creek. I've actually been involved a couple times in Mystery Creek. They absolutely hum. You get media there, you get all the innovators together, you get the leading rural professionals there. They are very, very good things. So it would be great to see one introduced strongly into Central District Field Days. So I really, really want to fund this because I can see the value of it. But what I can't see is the readiness. And as much appetite as I have for the mayor's generous offer around the first meeting of 2025, I just think that we're actually out of runway for the 2025 cycle. And I think at nearest this could be 2026. So my view is that I'll be voting against this in preference of option 3, should I get the opportunity to move it, which would actually see it go to an annual budget round. That would give Stuff Events the opportunity to bring us a more definitive proposal, allow us to weigh up those costs and benefits alongside all the other costs and benefits potentially coming in to the budget round and making a decision at that point. I wish we were in a position to actually see this for 2025, but the reality is we are out of runway in terms of actually getting to a point where I could hand on heart say public money, and that is what we're talking about here, public money should go in to an event that is already acknowledged to be a profitable event to add a dimension to it. That is actually quite a high bar, and so we need to see a very firm proposal with a great deal more detail about who's coming in, who is new coming in, so that we're not just shifting tents around, but we're actually bringing new people to the table. And frankly, to see Manawatu District actually put their hand in their pocket, I am shocked that an event of this scale sits within the district and doesn't have a dollar. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Barrett. Some agreement there. Councillor Finlay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I was actually shocked that we were the only people looked at for funding for this. There's been no applications to anyone else but to our City Council for funding. And I thought, man, there's heaps of other organisations that would get involved. What about some of the businesses that are involved? It just doesn't make sense to me. And then I find out that the extra 30,000 is full stuff to do advertising in the newspapers. Well, that's my misunderstanding, but that's what I heard. So that surprised me a little bit. Why should the ratepayers pay for advertising and stuff? That's the question I ask myself. Okay, but if we take 30,000 more out of the major event fund, which is already oversupplied or over required, who's going to miss out? What other event do we have to sacrifice to keep this one working? So I'm actually in support of what Councillor Barrett is recommending, that we go to the annual plan and we get it from there. But I really do think other organisations need to be approached, not only Manawatu, but some of the bigger businesses that are benefiting from it. And what does naming rights mean? If we're half funding it, and that's not enough to get naming rights, goodness me, I would wonder, we need to talk about that a bit. If we're going to continue funding at that level, maybe it should be named after the Palmerston North City Council. But I won't support this, and I will support Councillor Barrett's if he moves number 3.
Thank you, Councillor Finlay. Councillor Zabellin.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the team for coming to present. It is a really exciting position. I am going to support this recommendation, though, and here's why. We have policies and limits and budgets to ensure that our funding allocations for events and sponsorship things are made by a criteria and not by a political process. So it does frustrate me when we've set these budgets and policies and limits for events and sponsorship, and then we often make exceptions in the political arena because it's a really good proposition. And this is a really good proposition. We already fund this event, and I'm well on record for wanting us to be better at sticking to our own policies. We're playing fast and loose with our own rules. We've got one set of rules for some applicants, and we're willing to go down a whole other path to secure an above and beyond approach for other applicants. I don't think it's consistent or fair, so I'm happy to support this one. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Dennison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm also going to support this one, although I think you could do both and refer it to next year's annual deliberations and see if there's worthy of a top-up, but continue with our commitment of 30,000 through the major events. However, in the deliberations next year, my view would be, why are we going to be the full funder of this initiative? Why aren't we just a stakeholder and a partner, and quite a large partner, I'd say? I'd emphasise the point around Manawatu District. It's surprising they don't put $1 into this when, you know, we talk about our resource and our environment. They are centre to it all. And so without going to ask them the same presentation, without going to ask all these other institutes and key enterprises, I'm positioning here, it's not us, it's not yet, and I'm even kind of indicating, get prepared for, I'm not ready next year either, because I think 30% or 50% position on this is probably where about I'm comfortable to sit. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Dennison. That is the end of comments. So, let me cover some admin and then I might make a few comments. The option that we'll vote on first is the one in front of us, as moved and seconded, to decline the request to maintain existing contestable funding. Should that fail, we'll move to the alternative recommendation that the Mayor has signalled, and has that come to officers? So if you could write something down, Mr. Mayor, to come to that should this fail, which will need a seconder. And failing that, there is a third option, which we would get to from Councillor Barrett. Now, Councillor Barrett, we might have a way through this here. If you'd be willing to amend option 3, if you would move that as refer a new programme of up to $30,000 per year to support the Central District Field Days Agri-Hub Zone proposal to the annual budget. So we separate those two things out, then those two things would not then be in conflict. So we could take this one first and then come to that as an additional recommendation, which is separate. Yeah? So, I'm seeking the will of the room there. It seems to be that's a doer. So, we will go with this first recommendation, which is about the existing $30,000 allocation, to decline the request in this form to make that 60,000, to maintain the 30,000 that officers have allocated under the Major Events Fund. And we will also look at an amended option 3. So this becomes an and, not an or, and refer a new programme of up to $30,000 per year to support the CD Field Days, what are we calling it? Agri-Zone? It's all an Agri-Zone. Innovation Zone. What the Palmerston North City Council Innovation Zone at Central District Field Days to the annual budget deliberations. Annual process, not deliberations, process. Okay, that second one be moved by Councillor Barrett, seconded by the Mayor. Right. Administration will get those words sorted out, and I will open for No, I won't. We've done comments. We've done comments. So, right. Thank you all. I think where we've got to is something that gives us a route to work through this. We will take those two things separately. And so I will invite you to vote on option 1, decline the request and maintain existing funding from the Major Events Fund, knowing that there's another recommendation to come as well. That's 12 votes in favour and 1 against. So the 60,000 package is declined, the 30,000 is maintained. If we move to the amended, oh, that was that. Well done, everybody, 13, right number. We move to the amended option 3. So we want option 3 to say, help me here, refer a new programme of up to $30,000 per year to support Central District Field Days Innovation Zone proposal to the annual budget 24-25 process. A suggestion that needs to be 25-26. Yes. All happy? Let's vote on that. That is carried 11 votes in favour and 2 against. Thank you all. Now, I'm going to suggest we take morning tea now. Our visitors are going to move to their next engagement, I think. So we will be back in the chamber at 11:15 to continue with our agenda. And thank you, the Adventist School, for coming in to visit with us this morning. I appreciate your attentive listening.